Welcome to Team Review. Today we are reviewing Nemo's team. So this is Nemo's first Maddening run. So let's just jump into it. So to begin with, we have this Alear. Now this Alear looks like it's just using random utility things just to survive and to not be a liability. In terms of damage outputs, I don't think this, like the intention was to use this Alear as a damage unit. It looks like maybe Alear was using some kind of utility emblem and just stayed on Divine Dragon, or maybe there really wasn't too much of a plan with Alear. Now, I've used Alears like this too, where I just don't feel like using Alear, so I just give them whatever and just kind of throw them out there. But with Liberation, you could reset an emblem pretty quickly if you get a kill, so that's a thing. And then with Favorite Food, you can reset, so this could just be like an Engage Plus bot, which would be valuable in endgame, and maybe Alear had some kind of utility emblem before then. But this is like, I mean, it's... If you don't plan on using Alear, you can just keep them on Divine Dragon, make them a utility emblem user, or just switch them over to Martial Master and just have them Chain Guard, heal, and, you know, do some kind of utility emblem. Next we have Seadall. So the Seadall, Quality Time plus, Canter plus, this is a really solid build. And then of course, you have Bondage Shield. Now you can compress your Dancer to a Bondage Shield unit. What I would have done is moved the Lucina over to Alear to make that the Bondage Shield unit, throw Alear on Martial Master. But you can do this. This is totally fine. You'll easily beat the game either way. Either way, it's a 100% consistency, 100% proc rate Bondage Shield. So it's going to work. It's going to function. Quality Time plus Cancer plus Dancer is actually really good as well. The other thing that's nice is you do get Dual Assist plus. Now in terms of damage, Seadall's not attacking, he's just dancing and bondage shielding. Now there is one issue with using Seadall as your bonder. It's hard for Dancer to reset emblems. Now the reason for this is you do not get an emblem bar from dancing, but you do from using a staff. So this is typically why units like Fram or Alear are better on Martial Master, because they can punch something, they can quad, and then reset the emblem quickly. Whereas with Seadall, he wants to dance, typically. He wants to dance regardless of what you want him to do. I mean, that's like his most optimal thing, really. Like, you can have him start building up meter through punching, but it is harder to leverage this. Now, I do think they were using DLC, so I think they can kind of get away with this using their Fram, if I recall. Or no, that's a different team, never mind. Never mind, it's a different team, I still have to review. Alright, let's move on to Kagetsu. Okay, Kagetsu. So, Kagetsu Wyvern, alright. Resolve, reposition on Leaf. So this is interesting. Reposition, resolve. So it looks like he's going for kind of like tanky Kagetsu. Now Kagetsu on Wyvern is reasonably tanky. Even just looking at his stats, like 29 defense, 17 res, this is like decent. 30 speed, so he's doubling like all the slow and average speed things, but not the fast and super fast things, which is totally fine. Silver Sword, Killer Axe. I want to say the Killer Axe is his main weapon. You could also leverage Air Raid for speed plus 5. Now I do think the Leaf isn't really adding huge value here. You can get Vantage occasionally or Arm Shield occasionally. And it kind of looks like he's going for a kind of Arm Shield tanking thing, which you could do. You could definitely do that. 16 build. It's an interesting idea. Maybe with Axe Power and Tomahawk plus 3 or something, and then just have Killer Axe and Tomahawk as your weapons. That could be a thing. I mean, it's just, you know, just simple Axe Power stuff. This is decent. It's serviceable. He'll be one-rounding certain things. Now, Kagetsu's strength isn't as high as it seems. His strength is typically a little bit lower than Panette if he's on the same class as her, and she kills with crits, so he typically does want damage fixing. This is a common misconception about units like Merrin and Kagetsu, where people act like they don't need damage fixing. They definitely do if you want to get them one-rounding if they're not critting. But this is like a decent, like, off-tank damage dealer that can one-round some things, but probably needs to rely on crits to one-round most things. Alright, and then Goldmary. Alright, this Goldmary build I actually do kind of like. So there's a lot of forges though. Interesting. Silver sword, silver lance, killing edge, silver blade, spear. Okay, and then Goldmary on Roy. So I have run Goldmary on Roy before. It is decent. Dual assist plus draconic hex. So 29 speed is good enough to double, I would say, like half of the enemies on a map. And other enemies, you'll probably be like around their speed, so you're not fast enough to double them. Now, if you speed fix externally through like Byleth Instruct or something like that, or Dragon Instruct, if you do +2 speed for meals, that can help a little bit, but it really doesn't. It doesn't help you meet breakpoints unless you're already pretty close. And Goldmary, she's like average to above average speed, like closer to average, but she needs some speed fixing if you want to get her doubling on hero. Now, when you pop Roy, you get a little bit of speed because it gives you like +5 levels. So whatever your growth is, it rounds up. So she's probably at least getting 2 to 3 speed from engaging. The strength 30. The big issue I always found with Goldmary, and this has nothing to do with this build, is that she can easily get to doubling with speed fixing. Well, not really. She can semi-easily get to doubling with speed fixing and like a speed wing, but she needs damage fixing too. She is tanky though. She's actually a little bit tankier than Tamara, but Tamara has Sandstorm. So Goldmary usually just can't kill. Even if you throw her on like Noaton with like Axe Power 5, she has a hard time one-rounding. But she can deal good damage. Brave Assist is good. Dual Assist with Brave Assist is good. Draconic Hex is good. So I think the intention with this build is that you have an off tank, which is totally fine. You don't have to have just main tanks. You can have off tanks to tank like 1 to 2 enemies and survive. It's a debuffer, and it's a Dual Assist plus Brave Assist pod. So at the very least, you have, you know, an off tank unit that can deal some damage, double some things, go for killing edge crits, go for silver sword smacks. So it's, I mean, this is decent. This is a decent build. The Brave Assist and the Draconic Hex, it's good utility. It's a pretty good build. All right, then Panette, everyone's favorite unit. Pair up Vantage. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Okay, so it's a pair up. Really? I'm trying to think of why. Pair up plus Vantage. Do you need pair up if you're using Vantage? I wonder if pair up was unlocked and then he realized he didn't need it because of Vantage. Because like with Vantage, you hit before the chain assists, right? But I mean, it's totally fine. We have the Well Axe with crit engraving. So that's interesting. I mean, that's a good weapon, right? Like it has crit rates, it has better might than the Killer Axe, and it has similar crit rate to Killer Axe, and it looks cooler, I think. But aesthetic aside, you have a Wrath Ike tank with Vantage, so Vantage Wrath, very tried and true thing in Fire Emblem. This is a good build. I think the pair up is redundant. I don't think you need it. But beyond that, you have Ukon Vasara for Super Poke. You have the Well Axe for crits. You have a crit engraving that does not reduce damage, which can be important. You have Tomahawk for 2 range. You can also switch to Ragnall for 2 range if it makes sense, because you get defense +5. Now, Panette is slow, so she tends to get doubled. At 21 speed, you're getting doubled by a lot of things. But with Vantage and low enough health, you will be counterattacking before things can really mess with you. Typically what is run is holdout, so that if you were to get killed by something, it puts you at 1 HP, and then you can just heal, so that if Panette gets hit again by like a 3 range or a 2 range, for example, before Vantage can trigger, then it would just put her back to 1 HP, but then she has reduced her HP enough to trigger holdouts and to get Wrath, giving you that +30 crit. Alright, so let's look at the Merrin. Okay, this is different. Let's see, so we have Erica. Merrin, so Merrin on Wolf Knight is actually kind of interesting build, because it's almost like he knows Erica can damage fix you to the point where... This is actually really interesting. I don't see people unlocking Alacrity often, but on Merrin on Wolf Knight on Erica, it actually makes a lot of sense. because Merrin on Wolf Knight is very fast. Look at her speed. She's 38 speed. She's doubling everything except for like enemy Griffins and enemy Wolf Knights. So you're doubling like 80% of enemies without any speed modification. If you do speed plus 2 meals, she's at 40 speed. She's doubling probably closer to 90% of things. Maybe even 90% at 38 speed, depending on like what chapter you're on. But Iron Dagger plus 3. That's weird. Huh. So Cincada is a really good weapon. Does really good damage. Armor Slayer for utility. Karn Wenhan for super poke. Karn Wenhan I think is worse than Silverblade. This is like a nuanced thing though. I'm pretty sure it is worse than Silverblade. But those are kind of... Well, in a way they're redundant, but Karn Wenhan can't be broken easily. So you could attack with that. But... I like the concept. I don't know that I like the Iron Dagger. I get that he's going for like evasion tanking on the Makai engraving. I would forge it to a steel. Steel Dagger, like plus 5, is one of the best daggers in the game. I feel like with Steel Dagger plus 5 as your main weapon, Erica plus Wolf Knight without any passives is probably one rounding or almost one rounding most things. Alacrity plus plus is interesting because it allows you to kill things before they can counterattack if you double them. So that aspect of the kit allows you to like attack into things. Now you can pull out Sieglind, which is very good. That typically will kill. So even if you have like no good weapons, as long as you can double on Erica, you typically one round in late game because of Sieglind. Beyond that though, the dodge 20, I don't think Merrin needs that. It does basically nullify crits, but you could also just run the Celica engraving, which also gives you, I think, dodge plus 50 basically, and then that frees you up to run like Canter or damage fix or health fix or tanking. Like you could run resolve if you want to be silly, or you could run like some evasion thing. There's different things you could run on this, but I just don't think dodge 20 is very good. But the Alacrity Erica makes some sense on a fast unit, so that's kind of cool. Okay, then we have Mauvier. So this just looks like a late addition because, you know, Mauvier joins late. Just throw reposition on him, give him... Oh, but he forged the Flame Lance. It's a staff bot. Nothing crazy here. Alright, the Anna. So I feel like a lot of people do this with Anna. There's nothing wrong with this build. Looks like he didn't forge her tomes, though. You don't have to, but it just allows her to kill better. So Byleth Anna, I would say, is like one of the best use cases of her. You can easily get her speed up to doubling most things, if not all things on the map. Everything except for like the 40 plus speed things, because very few things can truly double those. You can take the fastest units on the fastest classes in the game and they still need like speed plus 5 and plus 2 speed from meal and maybe even an instruct to double those things. So I don't really hold that against units, but speed plus on her is typically used like speed plus 4 to 5, and then you forge tomes. Now she does have low build. Byleth does give speed though. You get plus 3 speed upon 20, and then of course you can siege tome. Now of the two units that you typically want to run this build on, I would say it's Pandreo or Anna. Pandreo has higher build and therefore is a little bit faster, but he does have lower magic and does not make you money. So interestingly enough, she's competitive with Pandreo in that there are trade-offs to using one versus the other. Some people consider her startup costs too high. I would say they're either bad at the game or playing fast. And more often than not, they're just bad at the game, but don't want to admit it. All right, and then luck plus 8. So we're going for luck stacking. So she's 46 luck. So basically she's near 50-50 proc rate for the money passive, which is pretty useful. A lot of people undervalue this still to this day. Her passive can easily make you like 40 to 80k, which can let you hit donation tiers. It can let you buy and forge weapons. It can let you buy crafting components like silver and steel and stuff from the Tamara shop. It can let you get consistent tier 4 wells. You can even farm gold if you really want to have infinite money. Like there's so many ways that having economy can break these games that it blows my mind that people consider this not an advantage. But this is a solid build. It's luck stacking. She has some damage. She probably won rounds like armors and medium durability things, and she has enough speed where she can Double most things. I would say like 60 to 70% of things she'll double. All right, Chloe Sigurd. Okay, this is interesting. Let's see. All right, so Repisalis plus 3. She's 34 speed. Now you can go for Air Raid for 39 speed, and then with Meal, you're 41 speed with an Air Raid. She has Fairy Tale Folk, which is very nice. That's her passive. If you use that correctly, that's just plus 2 true damage when attacking. And then she has Lance Power 5. So Physical Chloe is a build she can run. She can also get early Lance Power 2 to 3 or Sword Power 2 to 3 from getting early tier 4 wells before you lose Sigurd and Roy. And essentially this allows her to be a hard carry 11 sword units or a hard carry physical lance unit, either of which is fine and either of which can do really well. Killing Edge plus 2. Why not Killing Lance? I like everything but the Killing Edge. I feel like Killer Lance would have been better because she's on Lance Power. But Air Raid, hit plus 10, Canter, Momentum plus. Alright, so the Canter hit and run tactics on a flyer, fantastic. Momentum damage plus Lance Power, she's pretty much killing anything she doubles, except for armors, but she could switch to an Armor Slayer if you really want her to kill armors on physical. Hit plus 10, she doesn't need it. I'm guessing he just unlocked it, thinking she would need it. Her dex is good enough, like even right here it's 34, where especially if she has like a slight hit fixing weapon, she should be hitting. So hit plus 10 could be replaced with something else. Pretty much anything. Maybe Gentility. You already have Cancer on Sigurd, so... what would I run here? Maybe Gentility or Resolve for tanking. Gentility is nice because it just reduces damage and increases damage. It also gives you true damage when your Erica unit's engaged. So it's just pretty nice. But this is a solid build. I've run something similar, and also it looks cool because the Well Axe is like perfectly color coordinated with her outfit. Alright, Lapis. Lapis Lynn. Brave Sword. Okay, Georgios. Khalid Bulk. So this is interesting. So it's a Brave Sword Lapis. Sword Power 3 with Advance. Run through. So typically on Sword, if I were to run a Swordmaster Lapis, I would probably just give her crits with Sword Power. And then Wrath maybe? Something like that. So then she just, well, she'd have to double and crit because her single hit crit will not kill. It's hard to build Lapis. Her strength is a little bit better than Chloe. She has a slightly worse start than Chloe. I mean, they're pretty similar early game, but I think Chloe has more flexibility and more potential, and she also has better dex typically. So Swordmaster is an accurate class, and compared to Chloe's Wyvern, Lapis is 32 dex, and they both are +4 from their emblems. So she's really 28 and Chloe's 30. So even on a high dex class, she's still like -2 dex versus Chloe. But this is an okay build. You have a Brave Sword, you have Sword Power, you're going to deal some damage, you can go for Alacrity, you can build up speed with Speed Taker. Now she's not going to be taking off a lot of health with Mulagir. Astra, she'll kill flyers. Most things will kill flyers with Mulagir. Astra, but beyond that, you can Georgios to smack things, Armor Slayer armors, and then Brave Sword seems to be the main weapon here. But this is decent, it's serviceable. There's definitely better things to run, for sure, but Brave Sword, Sword Power 3 should be killing most things. Alright, and then we have Pandreo. Staff Mastery 5, Resistance +4. So he's still on High Priest. I mean, this is fine. You don't have to use him as a damage carry. He is a damage carry, though. You usually want to switch him over to Sage or Mage Knight, and then his performance skyrockets, unlike Etienne Warrior. So Luck +6, Res +5. Hey, look at his res. Him and Hort have pretty good res. His magic is on the lower side, though, compared to other units. He tends to have a little bit lower magic. I think his magic is similar to Ivy's, but it's lower than Anna's, if they're at the same level. But Fortify, Recover, Elfire. So he does chip damage if needed, and then just heals people. Probably cleansing, stuff like this. Resistance +4, he definitely doesn't need that, but it does allow him to tank mages better, which is interesting. His res is so high that a lot of endgame enemy mages will deal like 0 to 5 damage to him, which could allow him to res tank them. He doesn't need it though. One of the nice things about Micaiah too is that she has Nosferatu. So if you give him like Holdout, and just send him in with Nos. He usually can just tank a bunch of things. Same thing with like Anna. Typically any of these units on Nos tank can be pretty effective, but this is a decent staff utility. Alright, Fogado. Speed Taker, avoid 20. Okay, Radiant Bow, and his magic is 17. He actually has a pretty decent magic stat for like a non-mage, to be honest. And then of course with Marth, so obviously you get Marth back pretty late, but avoid 20, let's look at his avoid rating. 107. So the avoid 20 thing, I would have preferred to see him on an avoid engraving. I'm pretty sure Byleth engraving doesn't really give avoid. If it does, it gives like 10. But I would prefer to see him on like Lucina or something for 30 avoid, or Micaiah for 40. I think Micaiah's 40. But Radiant Bow plus 3, you're going to be killing things. You're going to be dealing, especially with 35 speed, you're going to be one-rounding or almost one-rounding armors and definitely one-shotting most, if not all, flyers if you hit them. And his hit rate is 181, which is decent. So he should be hitting those flyers with like 70 to 80 hit rates, and then if you factor in support bonuses, he should be hitting 100 hit fairly easily. He also can Love and Sword, Brave Bow, and Longbow. The Avoid, I think, doesn't really do anything here. Speed Taker is nice because then you can start doubling super fast things. But if he was on speed plus 5, he would be 40 base speed, plus the extra hit. With the extra hit, if Marth is popped, he's going to be killing most things he doubles, if not all things he doubles, with that third 50% damage hit. But with Speed Taker, I would have dropped Avoid 20 and given him Gentility, and then he would get 3 damage. I mean, Gentility is like a more nuanced thing that most people don't really run, aside from me and the people who watch my content, because of the way it scales damage. It's kind of weird and nuanced, but I would have rather him been on Speed plus 5, and then Gentility or Gentility Plus for some extra damage, because then you get armor penetration. So if you go for like Brave Bow, you could potentially be killing on that, and then it also boosts your Radiant Bow and so on. All right, Vael. So Vael, she's just like Mauvier, she's a late joiner. She comes with 2.5 SP, 2.5k SP, and typically you want to switch her off of her main class, but you don't have to. If you already have a full team and you just want to throw her in just for some chip damage here and there, that's totally fine. He's using her on Corrin on Fellchild, so you get the Dragon Vein bonus where you can choose whatever Dragon Vein you want. Typically, I don't think you need this. I'm not saying this is what he's doing, but I don't think Dragon type really is that good compared to just a strong class. Like if you're on Corrin, for example, I would say Mystic is probably the best thing. So if you make Vael a Sage, she just gets stat increase, and then she can spam fire and do all the things you usually want to do, but she can also like Thoron and stuff like this. Now she can do that on this class, but I'm fairly certain she just gets stat increase. I think Vael's best build is like the Marth build, because she gets Marth the same time she joins, and you can give her Sword Power 2 because she has 2.5k SP, and then Speed plus 3, and then Marth. Marth gives her speed, Speed plus 3 gives her speed, Sword Power gives her plus 2 damage per sword hit, and then she will double and then have that extra hit with Marth, and typically one round on Griffin Love and Sword immediately, and it's super cheap to forge. But this is a decent build. You have a Corrin bot that can freeze with El Thunder for like the 3-range poke. When engaged, you can of course use Torrential. You can use whatever Dragon Vein you want, and then you just have chip damage, Elwind for flyer effectiveness, and then her default weapons. And then finally we have Citrine. Citrine Celica. Okay, so Nova. So the speed is too low to quad, but 44 might on Nova when doubling. A lot of enemies have like 20 to 30 res. Some have like 10. Like endgame enemies, it's like 10 to 30 on average, and then the mages have higher. But Tome Precision Gentility. Okay, so Gentility is being used for damage. Now the only unfortunate thing about Citrine is that her speed and her build are quite low. So her only real advantage is that she has basically Anna's magic stat, but early. And then as Anna levels up, she actually has higher growth. She catches up to Citrine, and they have a difference of like 3 to 4 magic. and then every 10 levels, Anna gets 1 point closer. So it's like at first, at level 10, if they're both on Mage Knight, Anna's like slightly faster, like one speed on Citrine, and then Citrine has like +3 or 4 magic, and then at level 20, she's like +2 or 3 more magic. I think it's +2, and then Anna starts getting like +3 speed, +5 speed over Citrine. So she's typically just like slower, but she has like high magic stats up front, but it doesn't really matter as much because late game is really where things get benchmarked the most. But on Celica, you're dealing damage from the Tome, or not Tome Precision, Resonance. So Resonance Plus gives you +3 damage on your tomes. Bond 20 gives you +5 magic. So if you're using Nova with Gentility, you are, you know, +3 more true damage. So really, she's 47 magic here with Nova. Now, you could forge Nova to like +2, maybe +3. It's unlikely you have that much silver laying around by the time you get Nova, but you could forge it to at least like +1, maybe engrave it. Thoron for single poke on Ike. The only thing I don't care for about Citrine is her dex. I don't mind her magic stat, I feel like you can work with that, but her dex is very demanding of hit engravings, and there are only so many hit engravings in the game. This isn't like a criticism of Nemo's use of her. It's just an issue she has in general. She's not very accurate. And proof of this is the fact that he's running Tome Precision, because he kind of realizes or knew the whole time that she's not that accurate. So Tome Precision, Gentility. If he were just simply using Pandre or Anna, he wouldn't need Tome Precision at all. They naturally have significantly higher dex. So I would say I honestly don't really like Citrine. I don't think she's a good unit. I feel like she's super overhyped by efficiency players and LTCers, because in that format, she's good, but in normal play, she's just she falls off harder than like anything. And her best builds tend to be weird on like bond rings and stuff. But this build for her, Tome Precision, he's trying to fix her hit, that's fine. Gentility, increase her damage, that's fine. Resonance, you know, go for the extra damage. She's on Rescue and Recover for some utility staff. She has base bulk. It doesn't look like she's like a hard carry here. The idea I'm seeing here is that she's just like one of the, like a secondary damage unit that kind of helps, which is fine. This is probably her best use case, actually. What I like to do with her, if I am going to run her, is I'll hand her like Thoron with like Lyn engraving, Erica engraving, Byleth engraving, something like this that gives her hit and also a little bit of crit or a lot of crit. Her on Erica is good because she gets one shot anyways, so if she's getting hit, she's dying. So typically I'll just have her on Thoron, maybe Thoron +1 with like Erica engraving, give her canter and hold out or something. So that way if she gets hit, she survives the hit, and then she can canter to get in and out. I think that's like her best use case. Trying to make her into hard carry, you can do it, but there are other hard carries, like magical hard carries are just better. But this is a decent little utility build. You have a little bit of damage, some support. Just trying to fix her hit. But that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Thank you for sending these videos in Nemo. I appreciate it. Also, Nemo has a channel, so go check out him. I'll put a description, or put his a link to his channel in the description. But yeah, thanks for checking this out. Peace.